loan officer. And we don't spend a lot of time establishing the reason why our clients want to use us. Does anybody have, can anybody tell me what the first 10 to 15 minutes of their client appointment looks like? Is anybody willing to kind of discuss that a little bit with me?
I will.
All right, please.
I just had an appointment with a new realtor yesterday, in fact, and I kept remembering what Richard had said in the back, don't make this about you, make it about them. So I got to know them really well. Actually, the appointment was very long because of that. They told me everything about their life, and I kind of then knew what their hot buttons were. So I shared with them a little bit about my personal life, that I've been doing it for 30-plus years, and that I really enjoy the satisfaction of helping people become homeowners. We bonded over that, actually, and it wasn't until we got ready to leave lunch that I said, oh, by the way, you know, I would really appreciate having you as part of my team. I will be in contact. So I figured that was kind of like the laying ground, but in the past, what I did wrong was I would sit there and tell them everything about what I did and everything what my company did and why we were a good fit. So I didn't do that last time, and I really think it was a better meeting because of that.
Without any question. When we talk or when we frog our realtors, specifically our agents, we tend to frog them because we want to learn as much as we can about them, and I love that strategy. However, at some point, that conversation shifts to the question that everybody is thinking in their head, and a lot of times we as consultants don't ever really address. I always believe that our role with our realtors and our clients, first and foremost, if we're going to come from a position of value, has to be that we are consultants. I shared a story earlier this week with a group of LOs that I think is relevant here. And when we talk about being a consultant to our realtors or to our clients or anybody for that matter in our audience, what does that mean to you guys? Does anybody want to tell me what they believe a consultant looks like as it relates to sitting in front of a realtor?
I'll go with it.
All right.
This is Sue. I called in.
Hey, Sue. No problem.
I'm back on the mainland now. Yeah, I would, to answer that, basically say that it means that any question they have about possibly lending, we want to be their consultant. We want them to ask us, and either we know it or we don't. And if we don't, that's okay. We let them know that no matter what, I'm going to find an answer out for you.
Okay.
Even if I don't know it. So they're going to ask us about it, and then we're going to return the answer to them one way or another.
Right.
So.
I love it. I love it. I would agree with that, and then I would add to that. I always believe that a consultant is somebody who knows the questions that the audience is thinking and is capable of bringing it up before the audience does. So I'll give you an example. So I went to last summer. I decided to build some landscaping steps in my backyard on a really steep incline. I've never done that before. So my first inclination was, let's go to Home Depot and see what kind of materials they have to see what I can figure out on how to build these stairs. Well, I walk into Home Depot like I usually do on every weekend, and there's an older gentleman who's a greeter. We've all seen these guys at whether it be Kroger's, Lowe's, or Home Depot or wherever, and I walked up to this guy, and normally they say, good morning, can I help you find anything? And I said, to be honest, I'm trying to build some landscaping stairs, and I don't know what to do. And the guy looked at me across from me and said, you know what? It's your lucky day. I did landscaping for 25 years. And I said, holy cow. And so he walks me for the next hour and a half through Home Depot, putting all these materials on my cart, giving me little drawings on a scratch piece of paper of a rise and a fall and all this stuff. And within an hour and a half later, I'm walking out of Home Depot with a cart full of supplies, a sketch drawing, and I'm loading my stuff into my trailer, and I step back and go, I didn't even question the price of the materials or the materials themselves. I fell in love with this guy who was willing to tell me and educate me and help me understand what I was about to go through. He took out all of the fears that I had. He addressed all the concerns that if I didn't have at that moment, I was eventually going to have because he's done it before. And he simply took me through the process and eliminated all my fears by addressing the questions before they came up. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I could have gone and shopped for all the different materials in 3 different places and tried to find the cheapest place, or gone online and tried to figure it out myself, but I got lucky and found this guy accidentally who greeted me at Home Depot and took me through the whole process. And you know what ended up happening? I went home and I built my stairs, and they're still there, which is surprising to me in and of itself because I'm kind of impressed by it. The truth is that we have this happen to us in our business every single day. We tend to not really understand what our audience is looking for. We spend a lot of time asking them questions about themselves and trying to frog them, but I want to ask you guys to look at taking it a step farther. There are certain questions that our audience is thinking, whether it be a realtor or a consumer, and they're thinking it the moment they start a conversation with us. Does anybody have an idea what that question is? Every single client that we meet with and every single realtor that we meet with has this question circling in their brain. Does anybody know what it is?
No.
Really?
What do you want from me?
Okay, what do you want from me?
Oh, you think that's what you want from me? Huh.
You think that's the question that every realtor is thinking?
What can you do for me?
The service. What sets you apart?
Right. I like the first question because it speaks to the experience that every realtor has had from their previous conversations with loan officers, which that's the pigeonhole that we have to try to break free from. It's not what they can do for you, it's what you can do for them, because we are all about providing value. So the question is more along the lines of the second answer, which is, why should I use you? Our clients are thinking it, and our realtors are thinking it. And most of the time, we are so afraid to bring it up that it actually reduces the amount of power we have as being consultants to our clients. So I always feel like one of our greatest assets is understanding our audience in a lot of ways better than they do, and not being afraid to address the questions that are there, like the white elephant in the room. I remember having multiple conversations with clients and realtors over my career and sitting down with them and looking them across the table and go, I appreciate you meeting with me today, Mr. Realtor. I know that you're thinking, why should I use you to do loans? You've been in the business for quite a while, Mr. Agent, and I've been in the business quite a while. I'm not here to tell you exactly why you should use me. What I'm trying to figure out is whether or not you and I work better together as a partnership, or if we're better working, separately. My business isn't going to close up tomorrow, and neither is yours, but I'm willing to bet you that that's the first question that you're going to deal with in your head is, why should I use you? Bringing that to the surface elevates your abilities to be more than just a commodity to the industry. Realtors are used to, what do you want from me? That's the angle that most loan officers approach it with. But when you sit there and you address it by saying, I'm willing to bet you, you're looking at me going, I'm too young, or I'm too old, or I've not been in the business too long, or I've been in the business so long, or whatever the reason is. We tend to take the weaknesses that we feel about ourselves and we don't address them at the moment because we know what our audience is thinking about us. So I always like to address that in the very first conversation with the agent. You're probably looking at me going, why should I use you? And to be honest, I'm kind of thinking the same thing about you, Mr. Agent. I need to figure out if you'd be a good fit for my business. Because all of us have a very, very special practice that we own. Our mortgage practice is unique to ourselves, and our clients are attracted to us. We wouldn't for a moment think that we'd want to work with a realtor that didn't share the same integrity, didn't share the same morality, didn't share the same service level, right? We're particular about the agents we choose to work with. Correct?
Correct.
Right.
We don't want to work with an agent that doesn't know what they're doing. I've done that. We've all done that. That causes so much havoc on our life and the rest of our business that it's not worth it, no matter the loan size. Does everybody agree to that?
Yes.
Right. Yep.
So when we sit in front of a realtor, are we more interested in selling ourselves to them, or are we more interested in trying to get that realtor to sell themselves to us? Which one would be more preferable?
The second one would be more preferable.
right? To get the agent to feel like we're the prize, correct?
Correct.
Do we spend a lot of time in our conversations with the agents trying or getting them to see us as the prize, as the value, and that the realtor is really the one that needs to, it really needs to prove to us that they're worthy of us? And I don't mean that arrogantly. So the question that I always followed up with, why should you use me, was always the value of being referable. Meaning I've built a mortgage practice where my business, 63% of it is referred to me from my past clients and current clients, which means that I have a really strong ability to get clients who work with me to become raving fans of mine, which means that if you partner with me, more than likely, if you and I speak the same language to our audience, to our client, we stand a better chance of amplifying your business and growing it the way that we all want, because we all want referrals. That's what we all strive for, because it's the easiest, most highly converted lead source that's out there. But yet most of us are not referable. And in my experience working with agents, I have not met many realtors who understand what it means to A, be referable, or B, actually are referable. So Mr. Agent, as I sit here trying to decide if, you're trying to decide if I'm the right person for you, and and I'm trying to decide if you're the right person for me, I'm just kind of curious, what would you define as being your most referable quality, and what makes your real estate practice referable? Because I really want to make sure that if we decide to work together that, we both understand what we're getting into. Does that line of questioning change the mindset of the agent that you're talking to, and does it put more emphasis on what they have to be able to convey to you that they have value in?
Yes.
Yes.
How come when we talk to our agents, we want to learn about them from a personal standpoint, and we want to share with them who we are? I mean, we're all great people. We're all very good human beings. We're all givers. We're all very dedicated to our families and our businesses. We all do the right thing. But that's what everybody says. There's not a loan officer or realtor who would say anything less than that when they're trying to sell themselves to a prospective client. But my question then becomes is, what do we do to put ourselves in a position of being the prize with the agent? And I think a lot of it has to do with the value proposition that we believe we have but can't communicate it. And so those two questions are actually, and there's a third one that I always started my realtor conversations with as well. And it would be a combination of all three and no specific order. But the first one was, you're probably wondering why you should use me. And we'll talk about that and get through that. And I would always ask them, so what makes you a referable realtor? What is it about you that your clients say about you? And the third one is, help define for me what a perfect transaction means to you. I did a real estate class 2 weeks ago, and I had a group of agents tell me what they thought the definition of what they believed the definition was. And it was funny how all the agents in the room said it had to do with money and stress and nobody's yelling at me and getting paid. And the broker stood up and goes, it's getting a referral. And I said, that's amazing to me how a broker thinks like that, but the rest of his audience, the rest of his employees don't. How many of us know what the definition of a successful transaction is to our realtors that we talk to? I mean, how many of you guys can raise your hand and go, I have 5 agents and I know exactly what each of them define as a successful closing?
I feel like the realtors, the big button for them is closing on time.
But even then, closing on time isn't always possible. Like, we're in a business where there is a large percent of the transactions that don't go perfectly, correct? I mean, there's always something that happens.
Right.
We all know that there's 100 things that could go wrong. I mean, I literally give a list to my clients and to my agents that this is the list of 100 things that can go wrong through the process. There's the listing agent, the selling agent, the title company, the appraiser, the pest inspector, the home inspector, the title company. We all are touching the file, and all of us play a role in getting a file to close. But if you believe that your hot button is getting a file to close on time, then what that tells me is that you don't manage your client's fears and expectations correctly. Because the moment that you deliver a closing past the deadline, you are now being judged as being ineffective, but you yourself could have established such a great relationship with your clients, and you could have managed their fears and expectations flawlessly. You could close a week later and still generate a referral from that client, even if you close past the deadline. So I would always challenge a realtor. What's that?
The realtor should be the realtor is going to be updated during the whole process, so when you don't make the closing on time, it should not come as a surprise.
I couldn't agree more. So then why does a realtor believe that your goal, your value to them is whether or not you close on time?
I don't think my realtors feel that. I'm just answering in general. I mean, realtors
Right.
are all about the paycheck and closing.
Realtors are realtors, I believe, are probably the least effective people at managing their clients' fears and expectations. I have 5 realtors that I ended my career with that I probably spent 3/4 of my business referring to because they effectively knew how to manage their clients' fears and expectations. How many agents do we work with or that we call on that we try to earn their business and all they judge us for is whether or not we close on time? It goes back to that state. What's that?
I said there's several of those out there.
Right. But we spend most of our time trying to define what a successful transaction is to us, to the agent, but many of us don't know what our agent's definition of a successful transaction is. And the problem is that we don't have that conversation, therefore there's no dialogue with it to decide if we are worth what they're looking for, and frankly if we're worth, or what they're worth what we're looking for. It was always interesting to hear what a realtor's perspective is as it relates to closing on time or getting paid. In reality, if you dig deeper, they all want the same thing. We all want to see our business grow by getting the clients that we work with to tell somebody else that they care about us. Is that fair? Like if you were to really ask a realtor if they prefer to market themselves or to get referrals, which one do you think most realtors would ask for?
Referrals.
Every single one of them is going to ask for referrals. So if you look at those 3 questions that you start a conversation with, it's amazing the information that you gain and how effective that meeting becomes when you go, I know you're asking whether or not I should use you or why. You're asking what makes them referable, and then you're asking what the definition of a successful transaction is. I believe that those 3 questions lay the foundation for you to decide if that agent is qualified to be an agent you want to work with. Because if they can't answer that for you, if they can't answer why they're referable in a very clear and concise manner, there's a great opportunity to mentor them a little bit. You guys have not been on the call for as long as Mike has, but there are 3 things that I believe that we play a role in our businesses with realtors and our clients. Does anybody know what the 3 things are that a realtor gets paid to do? Like, can you literally define the 3 things that a realtor does that they get paid for that a for sale by owner box can't do, that a discount broker shop can't do, and that every other realtor out on the market can't explain? Does anybody have a definition of what those 3 things are? Mike, don't answer.
Write a contract.
You can get that. You can do that yourself with a for sale by owner box.
Access MLS and do a market analysis.
You can go to a discount broker shop and pay $350 or $500 for that.
Bond with the client and bring in if it's a FSBO, bond with the client and bring them prospective buyers.
Possibly. They could do that on Facebook and Instagram with their own home, couldn't they?
I guess.
I mean, not as effectively,
have a qualified buyer. You can't do that on Facebook.
Nope, you're right. You're right. I love where you're going with it, though. So here is what and there's no right or wrong answer, but I have found that when you explain this to your realtors, it's an infinitely powerful conversation to have if you're trying to create an image of you being the prize. So when you follow the 3 conversations that I laid out, and then you start dialoguing with them about what makes them referable, and then you can go to them and goes, here's what I believe makes me referable. And it applies to a realtor too, because it's the same thing. We compete against big banks, guaranteed rate, internet companies, credit unions, and these three things, I honestly believe that no competitor of ours is capable of defining for their audience. And I believe in my heart that the only thing that makes me different than every other lender that's out there is the words that I choose to use to define my value. So I would always look at the agents and go, I get paid to do three things, Mr. Realtor. I get paid to consult. My job is to ask very thought-provoking questions. My job is to dig deep to figure out what your wants, goals, and needs are, and to lay them out in a way that makes it very understandable so that I can give you and provide you the best possible advice and direction. Even if it means that I'm not going to get the loan, I still am going to help you understand what your choices and options are so that you go back to the realtor or that you go back to your referral source and say thank you, because that's how I expand my brand. It's getting other people to say thank you to the people they know because they put them in touch with me. So I get paid to consult, and I'm an awesome consultant. You can't get that at a discount shop. You can't get that on the internet. You can't get that from a phone jockey at a call bank center. You can't get consulting skills from everybody. Not everybody's a good consultant, but that's how I define my value. The second thing is I'm an awesome negotiator. I've been through the loan process enough, everybody, that I know how to negotiate the conditions between the underwriter and the processor and you guys to make it so that your stress is as limited as possible. I know when to push back on the underwriter. I know when to come to you and ask you for the documents because I've tried every other way. I do a really good job of negotiating you through the loan process. And the last thing that I believe is the number one quality that you want to use me, which is where I think most people in our industry fail. It's the ability to manage your fears and expectations through the process. See, I believe most people in this business are transactional. They don't really value the relationship. They value the transaction more than the relationship. So they don't care to be proactive in providing you updates and information to help you go through the process with the goal of getting you to be what I call a raving fan. So if you were to ask me what it is about my business that makes me referable, I'm a great consultant, I'm a negotiator, and I manage people's fears and expectations better than anybody because I am a relationship amplifier. That's what I do. That's why I, Mr. Realtor, am very selective with the agents that I work with. Because if you can talk like me and you can use those three things as your definition of value to your clients and they hear it from me, what do you think the chances of that client leaving the transaction feeling like they've got two amazing people that they would be glad to refer to the people they care about? Does it help or hurt them?
Yep.
Does it help their business or hurt their business?
Helps them.
Help.
Does it make you look more like the prize?
Yes.
Definitely.
Are you more attracted, or are you more attractive to them? They have never heard that dialogue from any loan officer. Some of you said, what can you do for me? Well, you're going to flip the script on them and go, you know, it's actually the honest is, I'm going to do something for you, and you're going to see the value in it, and that's going to make you want to have further conversations with me and partner with me, or at least help me decide if you're a good partner for me. Because if I'm going to speak this way and you can't do the same and you can't promote your business in the same manner, it doesn't make any sense for me to want to work with you because it's going to be counterproductive. You're going to hate me when I don't deliver a closing on time, even though there are expectations that sometimes are unrealistic. And so I'm not interested in doing that. I'm interested in helping clients navigate the loan process regardless of the outcome. I don't care when they close or what the cost is that they close. All I care about is that that client leaves the transaction looking at both the lender and the realtor as being amazing professionals that they would gladly refer to the people they care about. That's the kind of business relationship I'm looking for with my financial planners, my CPAs, and my attorneys, and my realtors. That's why I'm very particular about whether or not I want to work with you or not. So when I sit here and say whether or not I want to know why you are referable, well, it's because I want to figure out if it's something that you really believe in. Most agents don't get it. Most realtors, in my experience, they have a job. They just have a job. They wake up every day and they're in survival mode. They're living hand to mouth every single day. Not all of them, but most agents you run into, they don't really treat their business like a practice. You guys all either work for a branch that is a mortgage practice, or you guys each look at your businesses individually as a mortgage practice. I don't think any one of you is a loan officer. You guys are all exceptional, what I call originators, people who know how to go out into the marketplace, build and establish great relationships with the consumers and your referral partners, and provide them a value that is referable. I think every single one of you is at this company and at this branch because you possess that as a basic quality. But what we lose out on is how we're able to articulate that value that's different than everybody else that came before us, so that a realtor stops looking at us as like a tool. Like, I hated being compared to another loan officer, because in all fairness, I honestly believe that I wasn't the same as every other loan officer. And when I learned how to dialogue that script, it became infinitely clear to the to the realtors and to my clients that I wasn't like everybody else. I stopped having to be compared to everybody else, and everybody else started to be compared to me, in the sense of, if they left a meeting with me, I told them, I know that you're going to go out there and look at the internet. Interest rates are being advertised everywhere. I'm not afraid of you guys looking for, what's the best mortgage option for you that's out there. I want you to know that my job as a consultant is to help you find the best product for you and your needs. Most of the time, what you get in the internet and what you get in the media is somewhat too good to be true. And my job is to be that person that you can trust and understand that if it's the best option for you, I will gladly say that it's the best option for you. Because my job is to make sure you go back to that referral source and say thank you, whether it's a friend or a colleague at work or it's a realtor. My agents that I worked with, they spoke the same language as me. And together, when you show up as a unified front with your clients and you're seeking out what we called referable moments, and you orchestrated them from the onset of your relationships with every client they referred to you and I referred to them, it's a powerful thing. In 2012, when I stopped originating, I had referred out 25 purchase transactions to my 5 realtors, and that didn't include any listings that came along with them, because my past clients came to me first, and I was able to put them in touch with the agents that I believe were the best fit for them. Am I the prize to my agents if I'm passing out 25 referrals to them for purchases and listings?
Yeah.
Doesn't that shift the focus from being a commodity and a tool to being a partner and to being somebody who understands how to help them grow their business? Which, going back to the question at hand, what makes your business referable? And what's your definition of a successful transaction? To me, I'm referable because I understand what my value is, and it's unique, and every realtor can use the same 3 words because they do the same 3 things if they're good enough. But for the most part, we fail to be that consultant in the beginning, and we don't address that, and we don't position ourselves to be the prize to our agents. Realtors are sick and tired of people leaning on them. They're sick and tired of loan officers calling them and not giving them any value. And so a lot of times we call for 12 weeks if we're doing Thor's Hammer, and we stop getting return calls, or we just go right to voicemail. And that's because we don't give them any value or make it worthwhile. I always loved calling on a new realtor, especially on a listing agent, because that's where I got most of my, I never did Thor's Hammer, and Thor's Hammer is a genius process. I just didn't know about it when I was doing it, when I did my business. So I always called the listing agent. And my call with the listing agent was very, very honest up front. My job, hey, Mr. Listing Agent, just want to let you know that my client who I approved are going to be buying your seller's home. Just want to introduce myself and my team. We have a very clear expectation that we're going to take our clients through the process and make them so thrilled that they're going to refer us to the friends and family that they care about. And in doing so, we're going to make that process so great for them, you guys are going to see the benefit. We're going to provide you with great updates and accurate details, so you will always be able to follow up with your seller before they do, because I want to make you look really good in front of your seller. And if we're able to do that through the process, Mr. Listing Agent, I would love a chance to sit down and have coffee with you to decide if our practices could align and we could help you and you could help us grow our businesses. That was my opening conversation with every listing agent that came through the door. Do you think when I sat down for a coffee with them, do you think I was already being labeled as somebody different than they're used to?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Why? Why is what I'm saying, why is it so different than how you guys approach your agents? I mean, you guys are probably better at being a loan officer and originator than I ever was. I mean, you guys probably have significantly bigger databases and significantly, bigger production. But what is it about those conversations? What was it about the conversations I had that make it so different than maybe what you guys were doing?
You were
It's
giving them
intriguing.
Say that again?
Go ahead, Lonnie.
I was just saying you were giving them the benefit of, to them, to sit down with you.
Mm-hmm.
Not what you wanted out of it, but you were giving them the benefit of sitting with you.
I didn't believe for a moment that most of the agents that I would meet with would ever materialize into being a referral partner. I didn't. But I did meet with them just because I could never tell and I was always curious. So I never left disappointed. I always left with a, yeah, I figured mindset. But the few that I connected with, I would get business here and there from them, but I didn't invest a lot of time and energy because many of the realtors that I met in my career came and went, and they just were never referable. I only really found 5 agents that I worked with that were really, truly referable realtors, who spoke the same language, who bought into the same mindset, who cared the way that I cared, who weren't chasing closing dates. I loved working with my realtors, calling them up and go, listen, hey, guess what? There's a lien on the title. Oh, we're going to have to postpone the closing date. He goes, all right, great, Doug. Just tell me when, and I'll let my buyer know. I mean, it was such a great partnership. There was nobody crying over spilled milk. Everybody wanted the same outcome, which was, how do we do this transaction so that we get a client that's raving about us to the people they care about? If you guys had 5 to 10 realtors in your wheelhouse that all thought and acted like that, how much different would your business be?
Yes.
Be a hell of a lot it'd be a hell of a whole lot less stressful, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So why are we not having conversations that make us the prize, and instead, letting the realtor see us as being the true professionals in the industry? Is this helpful? Is this making sense to you guys?
Yeah, you're 100%.
Say that again?
I think it's just hard for most of us because we're scared in a way to position ourselves in that manner. But like you said, we're offering them a value,
Well,
and it's a
ask
different
you a
mindset.
question. Doug, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
A couple of days ago, I was at a builder's open house, and I work with this builder, and he had asked me to come by. So I went, and when I got there, it was a 3-hour open house. I got there about an hour and a half into it, and there was 2 women with Coldwell Banker kind of hanging in the kitchen, drinking champagne, and when I walked in, I had my name tag on. So it said who I was, and I went up and introduced myself to them, and one turns to me, and no exaggeration, for about 15 minutes, just throws out a million questions. Oh, so you're a lender. Well, what would you do with this? What would you do? And just went on and on and on, and I thought to myself, oh, wow. So I briefly answered a little bit, and I said to her, she's like, well, here is the number one question that's going to make or break you. And before she said the question, I looked at her and I said, I didn't realize I was on trial. Because it really took me back. I mean, she was firing at me. And so when I gave them my business card, she wouldn't give me hers.
No.
And I said to her when she got ready to leave, I said, well, I can tell you're pretty tough. I said, but the funny part of this whole thing is you assumed I wanted your business. I said, I'm here for my builder, and I don't even know if you and I are a good fit. How would you have handled that?
Right in the middle of her interrogation of you, I would have looked at her and simply said, you know what? I appreciate the line of questioning, but you don't know if what I'm telling you is accurate. You don't know my history and my background. And until you know me, I don't know if I could really answer the questions correctly. If you'd like to have a conversation about what it is that I do, and you can tell me what it is about your business that makes you so referable, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, turn it back to her. Yeah.
Well, and that's the whole premise of that initial conversation. You know, because I always believe that a realtor is always going to come at you from a scarcity standpoint. Like that whole line of questioning comes from a place of insecurity and her inability to manage her clients. I mean, if you really ask yourself those line of questioning is her definition of what a successful loan officer looks like. Well, to be honest, I can tell you right now that I was the worst loan officer on the planet. I couldn't answer guidelines. I can't fill out a 1003. You ask me to chase conditions, and I'm going to follow it up 9 out of 10 times. I was horrible at being a loan officer. That wasn't my strength. I'm a very high I, practically off the chart. What I was an exceptionally great originator, and I was able to get people to buy into my model and my process, and then turn the file over to my team and let them handle it. So if you were to sit there and grill me for 20 minutes on questions about guidelines, I'd look at you and go, frankly, I don't have an answer for those. My team does. But my question to you is, Mr. Realtor, of the last 10 transactions that you've gotten, how many of your clients have actually referred you to somebody that they care about, and can you prove it? Because I don't define a transaction by being successful on whether or not anything happens, any mistakes happen. I define it as, do I get a referral from my current client during the process? And 63% of the time I do. So you have to ask yourself, the realtors that you're working with or your loan officers that you've been working with, sounds like you just haven't really met the right one or a true professional. I may be different, and I would love a chance to talk to you about it. But at this point, I'm frankly, you know, I can already tell that I probably don't want to do business with you because it doesn't sound like you really care about that you don't really care about your clients all that much.
Yeah, I don't want to do business with her. I just didn't want to look like an idiot to the other realtors that were listening.
Right. The truth is that no matter what you say at that point, she's going to be she's trying to flex her muscles, and she's trying to be she's trying to peacock you. You know, she's got her feathers all ruffled out, and she's trying to show you, and she's really trying to belittle you.
Right. Yes.
And those are the people that most of the time you just have to look at them and shake your head and go, you probably do less than 1 or 2 transactions a month. Because if you're having that many struggles with loan officers that you have to berate me like that, then you probably don't have an ability to align yourself with great loan officers. So I'm sorry, I'm probably not a good fit for you either. I can see why. I can see why you don't do well with loan officers. You just got to believe in your heart, and I mean this with all sincerity. You are the prize. I honestly believe if you did an analysis of realtors and their incomes, 95% of the agents that are out there probably do 5% of the business. I know it's like that up here in Michigan. I got to imagine that it's the same in other markets. There's a select few that do a large volume of business, but for the most part, you go into a broker house and they've got 300 licenses, 255 of them are part-timers.
That's true.
And so more than likely when you're talking to a realtor like that, in your mind you have to look at them and go, I don't really think they run a real estate practice. I think they have a job as a realtor. So if you really wanted to stump them, look at them and go, what are the 3 things that you do for your clients that justify your 3% commission, Mrs. Realtor? Can you tell me what makes you different than a for sale by owner box or a discount shop? Like, why would a consumer pay you 3% on a $300,000 house? What is it that you do that no other realtor can do for them? What is it? If you really want to argue with me, I'd love to have this battle with any realtor. What is it? What do you get paid to do? Give me the 3 things that you do. For every 1 thing you do, it's 1% commission. And then I turn it around and go, listen, because I'm a consultant, I get paid 1% to do that. I'm a negotiator, I get paid another percent to do that. But where I really make my business grow is because I do a really good job of managing my clients' fears and expectations. Maybe you should turn that into an opportunity to talk to a realtor and then say to them, if you want to work with another loan officer that doesn't believe that model, go for it. But I think you're making a mistake because anybody who talks like this has a greater chance of building better relationships and getting referrals. And if that's what you really believe is a successful, is the definition of a successful transaction, I might be the best mousetrap out there. Oh, and we close on time. So, I mean, if that matters. Does that put you guys in a different position? Does it give you something of value to now defend yourselves with? Not really defend, I shouldn't say that. It gives you something that you can pull out of your briefcase and go, here's where I know for a fact that if you were to interview 20 loan officers in each of your markets, you would never get a loan officer to say those 3 words about the way that they do their business and what makes them referable. I guarantee it. And I am willing to bet you, because that doesn't happen, there's not a single realtor that you guys are talking to that would even have an idea of what those 3 things are. And what you would end up hearing is the cliches that we always hear from everybody. I call people back. I work weekends. I'm available 24/7. I care. I'm honest. I'm more loyal. I'm dedicated. I've got a ton of experience. Okay, all that's fine and dandy, but what does that mean to me as the consumer? I've heard that from 3 other realtors that I talked to. I don't know if I told you guys this last week, but I had 5 realtors stand up and I asked what it is about them that makes them referable. And I said to each, I said, before you guys answer, there's only one rule. You can't repeat what the person before you says. The first 2 got off easy. The last 3 struggled to try and find their value. It was amazing. Wow. Because you don't realize that what you say, everybody else is saying the same thing. And it gets lost in translation between not only that, but the fact that you use I and me all the time. The truth is that we'll learn over these over these calls. I'm going to teach you how to communicate your value in the eyes of your audience. Like Mr. Realtor, wouldn't it be great to go through a transaction where every time you picked up the phone and you wanted to call your buyer or you wanted to call your seller, you had up-to-date information and you could provide them with accurate details of the loan process because you knew that the financing side of it was being handled by a company who understood the value of amplifying relationships between the realtors and the clients? Wouldn't that be an amazing process to be a part of? The process that I belong to, or the process that we built, that's our goal with every transaction. I would love to find out if that's the way you would want to do your business, because if that is, there's probably a good chance that we would work well together. I said I maybe once or twice. I don't believe that I'm the prize. I mean, I believe that I'm the prize, but I believe that when I'm talking about my value, I'm putting it into their heads. I'm talking about it as if it's an assumptive flows. I'm talking about the end result as they would see it, not how I would see it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I recorded this call. I hope it was valuable, guys. Sometimes I feel like I get on these rants, and I hope it makes sense. I hope you guys don't think I'm all crazy and stuff. But this is what, this is kind of what I believe that my business, this is what caused my business to be successful for so many years. And I think that it's very easy. Say that again?
I said it was very helpful.
Good, good. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Guys, I'll send you guys out the replay like I do. I'll do it every week. So please feel free to take notes, listen to it, and by all means, if you have questions, pick up the phone. If you have a situation that arises or you guys are about to do a presentation, please call me. I would love to dialogue with you guys individually if you wanted and figure out ways to help you guys improve your value proposition to your audience, whether it's your clients or your realtors. Next week, what I'd like to focus on is my 5 bullet point process on how I started every transaction with every consumer and how I got them to believe in what it was that I was doing and how it benefited them and how I was able to capitalize on that through the process and getting referrals. And it's a really simple, easy process, but I would love to share it with you guys, and hopefully it changes or adds a little bit more to what you guys are already doing.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you guys for taking time out of your busy day. I'm honored to be a small part of your success. I really, really appreciate you guys. If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. Look for the replay within the next couple hours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.